Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and I'm just going to jump into today's guest. I'm so excited. I'm going to be working on a couple projects with Patrick Snow, and he is an international best-selling author, professional keynote speaker, publishing, speaking, and book marketing coach. So he does what I do, basically, except without the speaking. He discovered his gift for speaking at age 17 while giving a pre-game speech to his high school football team. Since then, Patrick has electrified more than 3,500 audiences on 4 continents to achieve individual and organizational destinies. As a publishing coach, he has mentored more than 1,200 clients throughout the world to successfully publish their books. Many of these clients have also gone on to be speakers, coaches, and consultants as well. Patrick's destiny message has been widely recognized in the media, including the New York Times and Forbes magazine. His book, story, and family photo was also featured as a cover story in a 2002 issue of the USA Today. Patrick is the author of many books, including the international bestseller, Creating Your Own Destiny, which has sold upwards of 1 million copies in 5 languages and 108 countries worldwide since 2001. This book and his second book, The Affluent Entrepreneur, have both been purchased by John Wiley and Sons in New York and published under their imprint. Originally from Michigan, Patrick graduated from the University of Montana in 1991. He lived in the Seattle area for more than 20 years until 2013, when he achieved his lifelong dream and moved to the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. So please join me in welcoming the Dean of Destiny, Patrick Snow. The Dean of Destiny, Patrick Snow. Patrick, welcome. I am so excited to have you. You are so knowledgeable.
Thank you, Juliet. This is going to be a lot of fun today.
It is. So let's jump right in. Before we get to the 5 ways to selling your author, becoming a best-selling author, how did you get where you got today? Like what was your journey in all of this?
Well, I played sports all the way through high school and into early college, and my goal was to play in the NFL, but I had a back injury that ended my college football career. So at that point, I turned my athletic discipline into my academics and into personal growth and development. So about halfway through college, I think I started reading massive numbers of books, maybe 1,000, 1,500 books before 25. And through high school and college, I almost never read. It was in college I started reading these personal growth and development books. I had always been a quote junkie because I had all these quotes from sports, and I loved speaking. I took one speech class in high school, one speech class in college. I got an A in both of those subject matters, and I was a B student, so that offset my C's that I got in chemistry and algebra and whatever else. So long story short, I gave a speech as part of my MBA program at University of Montana. I was an undergrad, and I submitted a business plan in the MBA program, and I got third place, but I got to go speak in front of 1,000 people, and I loved it. So graduated from University of Montana in 1991, moved to Seattle. I started speaking to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, churches, schools, FBLA, DECA, all these organizations, Rotary and Kiwanis, and I was doing really well speaking, but I wasn't doing very well getting paid. I got free breakfast and free lunch and free dinner and free pens and free food, free parking. And finally, one day I had to come to Jesus talking. It's like, what am I doing wrong here, God? Why can't I go from free speaking to fee speaking? And this message I heard back from the universe completely changed my life. And I heard this back. People try to give me this quote, but it's not me. I heard it from the universe. But it says this: if you want what others have, you must do what others have done, and you will get what others have gotten. So I looked at my mentors, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Dr. Stephen Covey, John Maxwell, and all of them were doing very well as a professional speaker. And they had one thing in common, and that was that they wrote and published a book, and they used their book as their platform from which they could stand on to launch their speaking, coaching, consulting career. So I spent 5 years and $20,000 writing and publishing, creating your own destiny. I made so many mistakes. I did so many things wrong, and I updated it 10 times into this 10th edition before I sold it out to John Wiley and Sons. But at the end of the day, today my speaking fee is 25 grand, and I don't share that to be arrogant or narcissist, but just to show you that I was a $25,000 speaker back in the day. I just didn't have a book. So I teach this concept. Without a book, you can't get booked. If you want to be a race car driver, you need a race car. You want to be a horse jockey, you need to have a horse. And without those resources, you can't be a speaker, a race car driver, or a horse racer, whatever. So that's how I got into this industry.
I love that. I actually started at a senior center. So, the places we start are not as glamorous as we think they're going to be.
Yeah, yeah. And it just stage time, stage time, stage time, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, exactly. So you're really good at some things in the publishing world that I want to talk about. The first is the 5 ways to be a best-selling author. People don't they read a lot of stuff on the internet, and a lot of times it's not the right stuff. So tell us what that five ways is that work.
Well, I made every mistake in the process. Ultimately, there's about 100 decisions to make in the process of writing and publishing a best-selling book. I had a client that's not very coachable, send me his third homemade cover design, changed his title 3 times in a row, all of which is going the wrong direction. He said, Patrick, I read somewhere that you need one big thing. You need one big thing for your book in order to do well. And I said, yeah, exactly. And I know what that one big thing is. And that is you need to spend the rest of your life marketing and promoting your book, 15 to 30 minutes every day. Most people do a 30-day book marketing campaign, 60-day, maybe 90-day. And then Oprah doesn't call. Dr. Phil doesn't call. They don't end up on the front page of the newspaper. So they abandon book 1 and they write book 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5. So the one big thing for his message that I coach and teach is you need to spend the rest of your life marketing and promoting your book. A successful book is 5% writing and 95% promotion. So with that being the case, I teach 5 ways to be a best-selling author. Number 1 way to be a best-selling author is you need to speak, because Bob Moed taught me this: when you speak, business happens, because your voice is your moneymaker. And the more that you speak, whether you're getting paid or whether it's for free, the more you speak, the more you earn. The more you speak, the more books that you sell. So the best way to spend the rest of your life promoting your book is do workshops, do teleseminars, do live events, do in-person keynotes and workshops, all of the above. Be a podcast guest. Try to be a guest on a podcast every single day, Monday through Friday, the rest of your life, and you'll be a best-selling author. So that's number 1. Number 2, our parents teach us never to judge a person by the way they look. In fact, our creator says don't judge at all. We should be non-judgmental. But in the field of publishing, the only way that people judge your book is through its cover design. And so based on that, don't have your brother or your sister or your auntie or your uncle or somebody in India or the Philippines, nothing wrong with those countries, a lot of great friends from both those places. Don't have them do your cover design. Hire a professional. Have someone like yourself that's been doing this for numerous years create a world-class cover design, because people are going to look at your book cover and they're going to see it in a minute and say, yep, okay, that's what I want. And by the way, the biggest mistake that people make on their cover is they put their mugshot right on the front of the book. And I teach my clients that the front cover of the book is for the reader, the back cover is for the author photo. Now, if you're Mike Tyson or Cher or, Joe Montana, if you're a celebrity, movie star, you can put your photo on the front of the book. But if you're not famous, you can't do that. Number 3 way to be a best-selling author is that you need to have a compelling title. And I'd say about 25 years ago, I spent $3,000 with a copywriting company, and they taught me the 3 best-selling, award-winning book titles, formulas. And we don't have time for all 3 today, but I'll give you the best one. The best one is you take a verb, you add an ing to it to make it an action verb or a gerund, similar to creating your own destiny, balancing family and work, achieving unlimited success. Here's one for you. If you are suffering from ovarian cancer, I had a client in LA, she wrote a book titled Beating Ovarian Cancer. And so how much more easy does it get when you hear that title, Beating Ovarian Cancer? Is there any doubt what that means? Prioritizing your self-care. These are chapter titles of some of my award-winning best-selling author clients because they've used that ing action verb. So if I were to do a book titled Create Your Own Destiny, that's a command or a demand that I'm barking in order to you. And nobody wants to be taught anything. But when you say creating your own destiny, that's a little bit softer. It's a journey, it's a process. So that title formula not only works for the title of your book, but every one of your chapter titles should also begin with an ing action verb gerund. And in doing so, it's more of a softer journey, roadmap, process. You, as the author, are the virtual mentor, and your client, the reader, they follow you wherever they go because you're not teaching and preaching. Number 3 is title of the book. Number 4, you need to have a hook of an introduction. Everybody writes their introduction like this. I wrote this book because of me. I. She ran away. He ran away. She cheated on me. He cheated on me. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, divorce. This health issue. Dog got hit by a car. Cat got ran over by the truck. You know, and I love animals, so I shouldn't use those examples. But the point of it is, I'm a victim. So please read my book because of my victimhoodness. So nobody's going to read that. The average book is read through about 8 or 10 pages, and then the reader is bored and they put it down. So I'm okay if you talk about in the book why you wrote the book, but the actual book introduction should be about the reader. I feel your pain. I have been in your shoes. I want to help you achieve your dreams, your goals, your visions. If I can do it, so can you. Let's lock arms together. Allow me to be your virtual mentor to help you create, experience, realize, and achieve your destiny. If I can do it, so can you. Are you ready to begin? Good. Let's get started making this journey together. So now you see that you're asking questions of the reader. You're hooking them in like a fish. And now the introduction is all about them, and they can't wait to dive into the content of the book. So I call it the 5-to-1 rule. Every time you say the word I or me anywhere in the book in first person, you need to say the word you or your 5 times. And the same is true as a professional speaker. I and me, I and me, I and me. People think you're a narcissist. But you and your, literally your book is a love letter that you're writing to just one reader. And so with that being the case, that's what you got to do. Okay, finally, number 5 is you need to have great content. And by having great content, don't edit your own book. Don't have somebody that doesn't know what they're doing edit your book. Have a world-class professional do a full edit, do a full proofread, and when you do that, great things indeed are going to happen. So those are the 5 ways to become a best-selling author.
And I love that because I don't know how many times I've heard my grandmother is an English major, but that doesn't make you someone who should be editing books.
I had somebody recently that, my sister-in-law can do this. And I'm like,
right.
Great. And your editor only costs this much, and my sister-in-law is $500 cheaper. Okay, well, I don't know anything about your sister-in-law, and I can't vouch for her work. And a year and a half later, because the sister-in-law has a full-time job,
right.
A year and a half later, sister gives the book back and says, I'm sorry, but I'm 2/3 of the way done. I just don't have time. I can't finish this project. And meanwhile, the editor that we have on our team, he gets the book done in 3 weeks and then a week of back and forth, and the book is done.
Yes. And I will say, when I worked with your editor last time, I loved that he stayed with his client through the formatting process, because people don't understand that when you go through formatting, you've looked at that book so many times, you're never going to see the mistakes at that point.
Yeah.
You're sick of your own book, basically,
Exactly.
at that point.
Yeah.
So you encourage people and teach them how to get paid speaking gigs, which not only allows them to get paid for the speaking, but now you're selling books at the back of the room. We're looking for, does that person who's hiring you to speak have an educational budget that they can actually buy those books? So tell us how does that all happen?
Well, the problem is so many of our clients, they come to us and they don't have a highlight video created. So they want to create a speaking career, and they just published a book, but they can't get a darn speaking engagement because they don't have a highlight video to send to the meeting planner. So the first thing that I have my clients do, our clients do, as soon as their book comes off the press, within 90 days, on about the 90th day, I want my clients to do a book launch party. And a book launch party is an in-person event at a high-end hotel, a community center. You have 10 volunteers on your marketing team, and they bring 10. So there's 100 right there. And your sphere of influence, you bring 100, and then you do media and other promotions, and maybe you get 100, 150, 200, 250 people in the audience. And now this is your coming out party to the world, letting the world know that you are an author, that you are a speaker. You may never have been paid to speak before, but this is your first opportunity to do so. And then, of course, it's super important to hire a world-class video production company to do a 2-camera video shoot, one in the very back of the room, and then another one walking around you on stage, capturing the size of the audience. And then the book launch party is a 3-hour event. In the middle hour of that 3-hour event is you as the author are given a 1-hour keynote speech from the stage on video. And it's okay if you screw up for 90% of the time. As long as 10% of the time, or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, we have world-class content, world-class video. And as a speaker coach, I help people do that. And so as a result of doing the book launch party, not only is your confidence boosted through the roof because you get a world-class highlight video, number 2, you might sell $2,000 or $3,000 in books. So now you're a paid professional speaker, even if you've never done so. And then, oh, by the way, you make a coaching offer. And then you say, you go for what Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen always said, you must ASK to GET. So from stage, you ask in order to get. And you let your audience know that 100% of your speaking engagements come by way of referral only. So if you benefited from this message today, I encourage you to come to the back of the room, give me your business card, and I'll gladly send out a copy of the book to the meeting planner. So that's how you do it. My successful clients all do a book launch party. My unsuccessful clients, they skip it. And then as a result, they don't do one. Once you do the in-person book launch party, then a week later, do the exact same thing, but do a virtual book launch on Zoom. Some people try to do them both at the same time, which is a little bit challenging, talking to the audience and then talking to the computer and talking to the audience. So I like keeping them separate. That event will kick off your professional speaking career, because when you ASK to GET, you're going to be amazed. You should get 3 or 5 or 7 or 10 spin-off speaking engagements every single time you speak. Half of them will be paid, the other half will not. And it's okay if it's not paid. I've made $24,000 before at an unpaid event by selling my coaching services in the back of the room. And I might have made a couple thousand on books, but it wasn't about the book. It was about the coaching. We can talk more about that later. So the way that you market yourself as a speaker is get the highlight video. Here's what you need. You need a book. You need a business card. You need a highlight video. You need a speaker one sheet. Yes. You need a speaker agreement. I don't ever say the word contract because nobody wants to sign a speaker contract. But in a speaker agreement, people sign. You have those 5 things. And then the next thing that you do is you open up your book. And once you find this out, there's 5 qualifications. Number 1, they must have a meeting. Number 2, they must have a date. Number 3, they've selected their venue. They have a theme. And most importantly, they haven't booked another speaker. And once you qualify those steps, then you open up your book. And on the inside flap, you write a nice 1-page inscription to the meeting planner. Dear Kathy Jones, I'd be honored and thrilled to be considered as a keynote speaker or breakout speaker for your sales conference this summer in Miami. If you select me as your speaker, I guarantee that you'll benefit and be pleased with the results. Dream plan executed, or Patrick Snow. And then you mail the book. And the first 5K paid speaking gig I was shocked, because I sent a book to the meeting planner. They booked me in Key Largo, Florida. $5,000, because before that in Seattle, I was running around in my car doing free gigs and $100 gigs and $250 and $1,000 and $1,500 gigs, but I couldn't get paid the big money. So sent a copy of the book, and sure enough, they called me and they booked me as their speaker. So I did what my mentors taught me. I showed up early like a politician. I was shaking hands at breakfast, asking this, asking that, say, look, I'm going to be your speaker. Please laugh at my jokes. And they thought that was funny that I was asking them to laugh. But then I got on stage and they laughed at my jokes. And then I got a standing ovation, which a lot of times in the industry, we don't always get that. Now I've learned how to do that naturally. So At the end of that first paid 5K gig, this was like in about 2001, 2002. I went to the meeting planner afterwards because I stay in the room until the last person leaves. And I say, I just need your help. Please enlighten me. There had to have been other speakers that you interviewed. What was it about my message? Why did you book me? Please help me learn how to do better. And she said, oh my goodness, we got 47 emails from 47 speakers all over North America. And we watched about 5 or 10 of their highlight videos, and they are all great videos. But I got to tell you, Mr. Snow, you were the only one that actually mailed a signed copy of the book. And I was like, wow, okay. And then I said, well, what do you think of the book? And she said, I'm sorry to tell you, but we had 7 of us on the speaker selection committee, and we were so busy planning this conference that not a single one of us actually read your book. And in that moment, I realized it's not about the content of the book to get the speaking engagements. It's about giving the book away to meeting planners, because I've learned that a book is the world's greatest marketing secret in the history of all business. The book is an attraction magnet, a physical website. It is literally the single greatest thing that you can do to launch your speaking, coaching, consulting career. So then people say, well, how did you go out and sell 1 million copies of your books? How did you land 3,500 paid speaking engagements on 4 continents over 25, 30 years? And the answer is, after that first experience in about 2001, I went home, and over the next 20 years, I gave away 5,000 copies of the book. And people say, I want to be a bestseller. I want to be a highly paid speaker. How do you do it? All you got to do is go to the post office every single day and mail out signed books to meeting planners, podcasters, bloggers, journalists, radio, TV producers, meeting planners, and consulting opportunities, and coaching and speaking gigs. And that's what you do, and that's how this industry works.
That's amazing. And I want you guys to notice something. He said, have that party in a high-end venue. We have someone coming up who's doing hers at a very nice art gallery in Los Angeles. But I would say the thing that people always want to do is they want to go to Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble is going to have a minimum of books that you have to bring in, and if they don't sell them, then you get hit with returns. So I love this, because anything that happens to not get sold, you're not going to get dinged and charged back for. And there's a lot of practice in there for what you want to do with this.
Well, you're absolutely right. And we get all of our clients in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstores worldwide, global book distribution. But I tell our clients that, bottom line, a bookstore and Amazon.com are lousy places to sell books. Yes, we do it for credentials. We do it for Amazon reviews. But you got to remember, they take 70, 80, 90%, and oftentimes they're slow pay. And they might pay 3 months or 6 months or 90 days later. All my clients that focus on selling books and Amazon algorithms, they might make $100, $200, $300 a month in the book selling industry. My clients that focus on gifting books strategically to speaking, coaching, consulting opportunities, they make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. So I learned early on that, yeah, bookstores are fun and cool, but don't waste your time. Set it up for the reviews and then move on.
That's probably the most valuable thing you've said today, and convincing people, because there's so much in their head about the ego of it versus I want to monetize. So you kind of have to give, you have to go one way or the other with that. Excellent, excellent. So you also you mentioned selling coaching as well. And that is something that I used to do when I went out and spoke. It wasn't about the books as much as, yes, I have the book, but now I'm going to sell the coaching. And that's where I walked out the door with appointments and opportunities to sell more. So talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, so many of my clients, they say, well, Patrick, I don't want to do coaching. I don't have time for coaching. How am I going to fit that on my calendar? And I said, okay, let's just look at this scenario. Let's say you get paid $10K to speak. There's 500 people there. Someone shows up at your table, they buy a copy of the book, and they say, I want to hire you as a coach. And I want to pay you $10,000 to be part of your inner circle. And then I asked that client, would you be willing to accept that $10,000? Like, oh yeah, I would accept the $10,000. So the biggest mistake that people make in coaching is they sell their services by the hour. Maybe they
Yes.
charge 100 an hour, 250 an hour, even $500 an hour. I think is a huge mistake because nobody ever got wealthy selling their services by the hour. Entrepreneur Magazine says that coaching is the hottest industry to be in for the last several years because everybody wants to super accelerate the level of success that they can get. And the best way to do it is if you want what others have, you must do what others have done, and you'll get what others have gotten. Successful people are successful because they're willing to do what their successful coaches have done. And so that's what we got to do. And that naturally leads into the information empire. And we can talk about that in a minute if you want. But at the end of the day, the challenge with coaching is to succeed as a coach. Number one is you need to make offers. Nothing happens in business between buyer and seller until an offer is made, and you being the coach need to be the one making the offer. So all day long, every day, by phone, by text, by email, by social media, I'm constantly putting this message out there, and that is I'd be honored and thrilled to offer you a complimentary, no obligation, 30 to 60-minute writing, publishing, book marketing, speaking, coaching, consultation by phone, by text, phone, FaceTime, or Zoom. And if you don't ASK, you're not going to GET. So you then do the complimentary discovery call. Never say the word free because free is cheap and there's no value. So it's always, I would be thrilled to offer you a complimentary 30, 60, 90-minute consultation. And then during that time, you listen. And nobody's probably listen to this person in months or years. So you literally listen your way into the sale. And at the end of the call, you tell them, here's what you got to do. You got to do what, and you overwhelm them with the what's. And then you say, when you make an investment in my coaching system, I'm going to give you the how. And then, of course, they need time to think about it. So I always give them 2 or 3 or 4 freebies. And that is, I help them completely create their book outline in those last 5 minutes. And they go, oh my goodness, I haven't paid this Patrick Snow a penny. And he's already helped me nail the title of my book, my table of contents, my book outline, my theme. And by the way, the #1 most booked speaking topic on planet Earth is leadership and self-leadership. So you need to have those chapters in the book. The #1 most booked coaching topic on planet Earth is empowerment, transformation, and change. So you need those chapters in the book. So I give away the freebies. And then, of course, we don't finish the call until I get the next appointment on the books. And then typically within a week or 2 weeks, they make that investment. So I love coaching. I moved to Maui 11 years ago and absolutely love it. It's the best place in the world to be a coach. It's probably the worst place in the world to be a professional speaker because we're 6 hours to the West Coast and 12 hours to the East Coast. So I've doubled down on the coaching and I love it. And people say, well, why did you move to Maui? How did you move to Maui? And I said, well, because I could. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, I'm a coach. And as a coach, you need a phone line and internet access. That's it. So I'm of the belief that coaching is, as a servant leader, it's one of the most honorable things that you can do in giving to others. And I learned from one of my mentors, Zig Ziglar, as a young man. He said, you can have everything in your life that you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want. And that's what coaching is. And the best way to pick up a new coaching client is to strategically gift them a copy of the book. Because the coaches out there, they don't have a book. I think I read something not too long ago that 20% of coaches make a full-time living in this business and 80% are struggling. So what knowledge do the wealthy 20% of coaches have that the poor 80% are missing? And that is the smart, brilliant, savvy marketers of the 20% of coaches. They all have a book and they use their book as their platform to coach and consult and speak from. So hopefully there's that question.
Yes, I love that. I actually don't work at selling my books. When we engage a new client or a new discovery call, we automatically mail them out. There are gifts, whether you choose us or not, to get yourself started right. So that's great. So tell me about the information empire flowchart.
Okay, so before we do that, there's one thing you talked about earlier was the gifting budget. And that is,
Yes.
you deliver the speaking engagement and you ask them prior to the speaking engagement, do you have an education materials budget or a gifting budget? And they might pay you 10 or 15 or 20 grand to speak, but then they might buy $10,000 in books. So let's say in doing that, you sell 1,000 books in one day. And I will tell you, I don't know anybody on planet Earth that is selling 1,000 books a day on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. So that just drives that point home. I didn't want to forget that. So what I coach and teach is how to succeed in the information empire industry. And I've recognized and experienced this flow chart. And so these are multiple steps. Step number one is you write and publish your intellectual property in the form of a 250 to 300 page hardcover book, because those 50 and 60 page booklets that are so thin that there's no spine, a lot of them are done on Amazon, they're a booklet. That's maybe a $500 speaker. You're not going to get $25,000 to speak with a 75-page book. So, number one, write and publish a 250-page, high-quality, ultra-bright white paper, hardcover book. When you take the dust jacket off of the book, you want the actual book cover to be printed on the actual
Yes.
spine, on the board, and then do the bright white paper so it doesn't turn to yellow. So that's number one. Number two, you take that book, which is now your world's greatest marketing secret, and you strategically gift that to your coaching prospects, consulting prospects, and your meeting planners. Number three, as a result of them receiving the book, on the back flap of the book, they're going to have the website information. So step number three is they see your domain name, because your book is nothing more than an arrow that points to the website. Step number four, they watch the highlight video. And all they care is, are you good or are you boring? Are you an arrogant? Are you a prick? Are you nice? Are you kind? Are you gentle? Are you humble? Are you willing to stick around and do a keynote speech? Will you show up for breakfast? Will you stay for lunch? They want to know that. So then they can feel your energy and your passion. I once got a $10,000 gig in London, Ontario, Canada, and they said, can you bring that level of passion to our stage? And I said, of course I can. They said, well, I almost got fired last year because I booked this really boring speaker, and they almost got booed off the stage. So we want high energy and passion. I'm like, okay, I can do that. So that's the purpose of the highlight video. Okay, so next, I think I'm on step number four. Now they book you as the keynote speaker. Sometimes you get paid, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get paid full fee, sometimes you get paid a half fee. And then, of course, we ask that gifting budget question, educational materials budget, because we want the keynote fee and we want to sell a bunch of books so they can insert the book into the amenity bag upon conference registration check-in. So now from stage, you do an hour, hour and a half, 2-hour keynote speech in front of this captive audience. The more time that you get with the audience, the more they fall in love with you. So if they give you an opportunity between a 30, 45, 60-minute speech, you want the 60-minute speech. And oh, by the way, if they say, when do you want to speak? The best time to speak is 10 or 10:30 a.m. And the reason why you want that slot is now people are awake, and you're going to speak all the way up to the lunch hour. And then you're going to ask people, come into the back of the room, and on your lunch hour, you can pick up a signed copy of the book. And here's the deal. If you like it, tell somebody about it. If you don't like the book, keep it a secret. Don't say a word to anybody. So now you have an hour during lunch hour to sign books. And that might be the difference between selling $5,000 in books or selling 500 in books, because you don't want to be back to back to back and you're stuck in there and you got 5 minutes to sell books. So now what happens is, I think step number 5, and I might be off slightly on the numbers aren't important, it's the concepts are. Now they rush to the back of the room and they buy your books. And it's just like a kid going to a baseball game. The kid wants to take a foul ball home with them from the baseball game. So they want to take your book home as a souvenir. So now they do that. And oh, by the way, from stage, you mentioned that 100% of your speaking engagements come by way of referral only. So now you have 8 or 10 or 12 people saying, you need to contact this person. Here's their card. Here's their phone number. I'll send a group text to introduce. So the 6th or 7th step is you might have 5 or 7 or 10 spin-off speaking engagements. And then those people go home, they read your book, and they miss your energy. They miss your passion. Yes, they're now following you on social media, but now they call you up and they said, yes, Patrick offered a complimentary consultation. So now they call you and then they hire you as a coach. Meanwhile, while all that's happening, then you have the corporation or the organization that booked you and they've got all kinds of pressure from their board of directors about not hitting their metrics and their revenue goals. So now they realize, wait a minute, this Patrick Snow is a consultant. Maybe we need to hire him in and send him out to go do 10 or 15 or 20 gigs to our whole, corporation throughout the country. Or maybe we hire his executive leadership business coaching for 6 or 9 or 12 months. So then you get the consulting income. And then the last step on this flow chart on the information empire is that all of the 1,000 people that heard you speak, those that care and that have a big heart, they're going to follow you on social media, and they are going to open up their database and become your fans, your tribe, your joint venture affiliates. And that as a result of that, they will then make connections for you. And so that's all you do, is you just follow that over and over and over the rest of your life. Everybody wants to narrow niche their book. And the problem with that is when you speak, business happens. You don't know who's in the audience. I once did a 4-country tour throughout South America speaking to the human resources industry. I know nothing about human resources other than I've had some jobs early in my career before I retired at 34 years old, but I don't know anything about human resources. But I once spoke to a human resources consortium and they booked me to speak at all these other countries. So my point of it is, don't worry about your target market. Your target market is any organization that sends you a check and it clears your bank account. If it does that, then they're in your target market, and God will open doors for you. Yes. All you got to do is speak. So that's that information empire flow chart. I've been using it, practicing it, experiencing it for 25, 30 years. And it's so true. It works every time.
Wow, you gave us so much to think about today. So, you guys, if you're interested in talking to Pat and exploring this, Patrick, I forget which one you prefer, text me at 661-313-7120 and tell me you want to talk to Pat, and I'll do a little bit of vetting and we'll get you over to him and his team for the book development. And by the way, his packages, this is what I love about him. His packages not only include that book development and really deep copy editing that your book needs, but while you're publishing with us, he will teach you all of this that he just told you about speaking. So you have the knowledge you're gaining while your book is being formatted and all those good things made into a book that you can hit the ground running once that book is in print. So
yeah, and by the way, I like Patrick because I was born Patrick, but then all the way through school, my friends and family called me Pat, Pat, Pat. And then in the mid 80s on Saturday Night Live, that Pat came out. Oh, and you remember that Pat couldn't tell if it was a he or a she. So they started calling me that Pat my senior year, and it was all in good fun. So I went off to college and they said, what's your name? And oh, my name is Patrick. So I was Pat the first 18 years of my life. And now at 56, the last 18 to 56, I've been Patrick. But just don't come for dinner and we're good to go.
That is hilarious. My maiden name is Dylan, and I was almost Matthew Patrick Dillon. So think about that, how awful it would have been to go through life as Matt Dillon.
Yeah.
And some of you may not even be old enough to know what I'm talking about, but was it Gunsmoke? I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I know who Matt Dillon is. I don't remember all his movies, though.
Oh, yeah. It's not the actor. There was a 50s, 60s show, I think, called Gunsmoke, and the sheriff was Matt Dillon. So when my parents told me that, I was like, thank God I was a girl.
Yeah.
So, Patrick, thank you. You guys are going to see more articles in the magazine. Patrick has graciously given me a whole bunch of content to work with. So you're going to get a lot of this in the magazine, too. He has so many great ideas, and he's so successful at this. So, Patrick, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Juliet. I'm so honored and thrilled to partner with you and being part of your team. I'm just absolutely humbled. So thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you.